Starting over is always so scary, even at 27. I know I am young, but sometimes I cannot help but listen to the whisper telling me that I should have it all figured out by now. I'm not sure how or when I adopted this idea that our 20s are supposed to be the best times of our lives. Or worse, that we're supposed to have it all figured out at this point. I turned 27 shortly, and I don't have a lot of the things I thought I would have at 27. I don't have a boyfriend, I just left my job, and I still haven't graced the cover of Forbes Under 30. Somehow at 17, I thought I would have this all figured out. I guess I was just a little ambitious. But I have been telling myself that it's okay, and in some areas where I feel like I have lacked, we have made strides in other ways. But this video is for anyone who feels a little behind in life or is starting over a new page. Whether it is in work or in love, this one is for you. From my heart to your screen, love, joy. I am in Bryant Park and I will be very sad if it turns out the audio quality is not great and I have to re-record. Hi, for those of you who are new here, my name is Joy. I recently left my software engineering job in New York City to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams full-time, which is to start a tech startup and create content. And this episode is about restarting your life at whatever age, which is in my case 27, soon to be 27. I don't know, it just feels really crazy and daunting a lot of the times. I'm like in the early stages of everything. This is like day zero. I would say like technically not day zero, but still in like the early phases. I'm monetized on YouTube, but the money hasn't really kicked in yet, and it probably will not be livable income for like a long time. And I have been rejected by most accelerators, and there are still a few more on the go. So essentially starting over, it feels very scary. And I know that 27 objectively is not old. My friends who are 27, most of them are about to settle down, they're getting engaged, they're staying in their jobs for a long time. And meanwhile for me, it's like starting a brand new chapter. Definitely been both exciting and nerve-wracking, and I feel so nervous a lot of the time. Nervous because there's just so much uncertainty, especially at a time when it feels like it's already time to settle down. So this video, we're gonna talk about starting over at whatever age and just all the feelings associated with it. So I want to first talk about why I feel like our 20s are so hard. I feel like before this, most of us were in school for like almost 20 something years. And there was just a lot of structure. Like even in college, you knew what to expect and when to expect what. And even if things weren't clear, you could just look at your seniors who would vaguely give you an idea of what your next year is gonna look like. Versus in real life, there's none of that. There's no like foresight into what's about to come. And of course, it's like nauseating and scary. Everything was clear, and suddenly we're thrust into this period where we have so much freedom, so much time, and just space to choose whatever we want, which is great, exhilarating, but also terrifying because I feel like we're just not used to like this change. Okay, we're at MoMA now and we're gonna film the rest of the video. First thing I want to talk about is relationships. I'm turning 27, and literally the moment you get into your mid-20s, I feel like everyone around me is either engaged or soon to be engaged or in a long-term relationship or is actively dating. And none of that applies to me. I'm single and I think I only went on one date in the last year. I'm not on apps. Like, it's kind of like a choice. I don't really want to be on dating apps. I don't really want to actively go on dates for various reasons. As much as it is a choice, 11th wheeling or sometimes being the only person on the entire table who's single can get to you. But I'll tell you like the other things that get to me. It's getting dating advice from people who haven't been dating, like people who been with their significant other since they were in high school, or people who've never experienced heartbreak before or only experienced it once, and they tell me that you should put yourself out there, you should lower your standards and all that. You don't know the pain and the frustration and just how much anxiety it is to do all these things, especially if you've put yourself out there before and especially if you've been hurt before. And I know that they mean well, but it's just like all of that combined is something that I've been really struggling with from like a relationship perspective. Although I'm like intentionally not really actively dating right now, I do hope that one day I do find my person. Although it's a choice I'm making and it's a choice I want, it's still hard when you're like going through it Like going on Instagram and seeing everyone post engagement photos has not been good for my mental health. I sort of logged out of my main Instagram page, and it can sometimes feel like everyone in this world is in a happy relationship but you. But I also know that it's not true, right? Just because people aren't in relationships doesn't mean that they're happy or doesn't mean that necessarily is gonna last. There's like this rational side of me that knows all these things and tells me that it's better to wait, but there's also this like more vulnerable side that's afraid, and it's just like kind of anxious overall. It is all these feelings that I have about like dating or relationships or being single at this point in my life and feeling like I'm just starting over. I do believe in faith. Like, I do believe that there's someone out there for you, potentially. I don't know if that's proven to be true yet for my case, but yeah, I am a hopeless romantic at my core, so I do believe that the right person for you will not pass you by, and if you broke up with someone, it simply means that they were not the love of your life. And I feel like I also needed to be single in this period of my life because I grew so much, I learned so much, I learned how to be confident, I learned how to be independent, and I wouldn't be able to post these videos or even have the courage to take a chance on myself if I weren't single, I feel. That's my spiel about feeling like I'm behind in my 20s when it comes to dating or just like starting over in the relationship aspect. Now let's talk about work. Figuring out your career in your 20s is so hard. Something I learned early on though, just because you graduate from the same college or high school from your peers does not necessarily mean that you're from the same starting point. Some of my friends had parents who have like family businesses, parents who worked in corporate, so they were able to pass on that knowledge versus my parents are professionals, aka they're like medical professionals, and I would have been a nepo baby had I become a dentist, but alas, here we are. And obviously that's just like the way circumstances are, so a lot of things I had to figure out really on my own, and it has been hard, and it's something I think I also want to remind other people. Like, navigating things itself is a challenge. It's also hard from my experience to figure out what you want to do or even put the intention to figure out what you want to do, because it can feel like looking at your peers or your coworkers, everyone's just living, and like you shouldn't kind of like shake the status quo. Even though it looks like you're on similar-ish paths, you're not really on a similar path because everyone has different wants, different circumstances, and you always have to cater towards your own, because it's not like school where they give you a set of instructions or guide. The ability to chart your own path and decide what's right for you falls on you. And it can also easily feel like everyone is so incredibly successful, but like, I think like everyone has their own struggles in their 20s, and the people who are exceptionally successful in their 20s, they are like the outliers and not the norm. Most of us here, we're still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out. I mean, I'm going through my savings, for God's sake. And what I try to remind myself is your career is long. So just because you don't have it figured out in the beginning doesn't mean that you'll always feel lost. But just because it's long doesn't mean you should procrastinate figuring things out and making choices that's right for you. And yeah, again, there's this rational side of me that's like, no, career takes time. And this other side, when I look at social media where it feels like everyone is super duper figured out, I just remind myself that people normally only talk about their wins. Rarely will you find someone who's genuinely able to be vulnerable and open up about their struggles or their downsides. And yeah, there's just so much uncertainty in my life, even my career right now. But although like I feel very nervous a lot of the times, I feel good about this risk because this is a risk that I wanted to take for myself. I think what I wish I could tell my younger self, or what I wish I landed on sooner, was the idea that you don't have to know every single thing so early on in life, because life is long. So some gentle reminders, if you feel like you're behind in life or you're starting over at whatever age you're in right now, that life is not a checklist, it's something to experience. There is no such thing as being late, and take it by the day and do things on your own terms. And remember, everyone has different circumstances, everyone has different privileges and struggles. And so don't compare your life to other people's, but look at other people's lives. Just look at it for inspiration, but don't use it as a benchmark of comparison. Yeah, I feel very nervous about turning 27 this year because I feel like I had this idea of what my life was going to be like at 27, but here I am still figuring things out. Like, that's not to say that I regret taking this risk or that I wish I was in a relationship. I feel like everything will happen in due time. These choices are a reflection of my value, but I do still feel a little nervous and a little behind, and I think I know that like rationally I am not, because there's no such thing as being behind in your own life, but it's just a feeling that I get sometimes. I do feel very grateful at the end of the day though to be able to make choices that are a reflection of my values and my ambition and my dreams. So if you're older than me, give me some tips on how to like deal well with this like getting older jitters ish. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, love you, bye.